Welcome to CEDAR Podcast. Common European data spaces and robust AI for transparent public governance.
So welcome everybody to this fourth episode of the CEDAR podcast series. I am Francesco Osimanti. I think you should know me by now, but for those who don't yet, I very briefly introduce myself. I'm a project manager at the Lisbon Council, and I take care of various European funded research projects. And most importantly, here I represent the CEDAR initiative in quality of the communication and dissemination leader. We are now entering in the final year, in the final life cycle period of the project timeline. So all the partners and the people working on the project are now very, very actively committed to bring the final outputs and result to the final stage, let's say. On this occasion today, we decided to bring to the table different actors and partners to provide you with the different standpoints of what's happening, also behind the scenes of the project. So today we won't have a major topic to focus on, so we will give a bit of a turn to the nature of our podcast, but we will jump across let's say a multitude of different nuances and topics, which all affect and constitute some of the vital, the key objectives of the CEDAR initiative. We will talk about the data management. We will step, let's say, in the local setting of the municipality and the management of the public administration by bringing in one of our pilot, the Italian one in this case, and we will discuss on how the tools, the solution developed and provided by CEDAR can positively impact let's say the effective management of public administration. We will tackle a bit of the technological side with the AI subject that is always present in correlation with public procurement. And eventually we will share some thoughts on a more higher level, let's say, topics such as the importance of intellectual property, exploitation, and a bit of dissemination and communication when it comes to deal with European research funded projects. I think it's about time now to not linger any further, and to give a start to this very nice and interactive discussion with our guest for today, all of them very esteemed colleagues and dedicated partners of the CEDAR project. So let me give you a very brief round of introduction before they can start the conversation and looping everybody in the actual discussion. So we have today the pleasure to host Peter Graeff. He's a professor at the Institute for Social Sciences at KIEL University. We have Sonke Hese, scientific assistant at KIEL University. We have Paolo Perucci for the first time here, as manager of ICT department at the Regione Autonoma Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, and representative of the Italian pilot study. And we have my colleague Panayiota Agkoli, Senior European Project Manager at Bright Group and DBC Diadikasia. So before giving you to each of you, of course, during your intervention, the possibility to better introduce yourself if you want, but I would like to kickstart this episode by bringing in my dear colleague and friend Peter, but at the same time, I will invite the other guests to intervene whenever needed or whenever they want, or at the end of each guest intervention to complement the discussion. So Peter, let's cut to the chase and let's step into the first matter of discussion today. CEDAR and data and knowledge. So how CEDAR is supposed to turn data into knowledge? I mean, which part of reality do CEDAR data actually represent, and why is data quality such a central thread here? It's a wealth of subjects all correlated together, but I'll leave it up to you to debrief all of this for our listeners. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco, for the nice introduction. Yes, CEDAR wants to turn data into knowledge somehow. And then the question is, how does meaning actually enter the data? And the simple question is, the simple answer is that data does not become knowledge automatically. We're dealing with public procurement, open data environments, and therefore information in such environments actually exists in fragmented forms. I guess Sonke will say something about this later on. But here, take as an example, spreadsheets, notices, PDFs, or administrative records. So, and you can imagine on their own, such fragmented forms are only isolated pieces of information. And they can become meaningful if they are standardized, structured, and embedded into context. And context means here, first in the technical sense, that such things are addressed like identifiers, taxonomies, or timestamps, and even more important, in the organizational and societal sense, the context means that there are existing links, connections between actors, contracts, places, or processes. And that is the answer why there is no simple linear move from data to knowledge. Instead, it's a demanding process of interpretation and transformation. And our CEDAR project is important because it tackles exactly like this. It tackles the point where raw and sometimes very messy data is turned into an analytical, robust, and socially meaningful issues. And maybe it's important to know what actually is captured by the CEDAR data. So to say, what is actually depicted and what is represented. In the project, we decided on an early stage that we would like to deal with public procurement. And obviously, we are dealing with in CEDAR with much more than simple procurement documents as data. We are dealing with interactions of buyers, suppliers, and importantly, very important, under which institutional conditions such transactions actually happen. For us, these contexts are really important. And that is exactly why the pilot states and the pilot studies are so revealing, because the pilot countries differ in their context conditions. And for instance, in Italy, procurement data can not be understood only as an isolated, cannot be understood such as an isolated legal act. It's rather a part of a larger governance system. And in Slovenia, we are dealing with the health sector, and we scrutinize feature of health-related procurement issues. That means what we are actually capturing with CEDAR, the reality represented by the data is relational and contextual. And this means that we are not just dealing with single tenders, we are dealing with actors, institutions, and risks. And therefore, data quality is so important.
Do you think, Peter, just sorry to interrupt you. And
sure.
Of course, I'll leave you the floor to bring this on. Do you think roughly speaking, the ordinary lifespan of an Horizon Europe, as we know it, project is sufficient enough to carry out this work of correlation between meaningfulness and data, knowledge? With your experience in CEDAR, this is something this 36 months of project have proven to be enough, and is still proving, because we have still a few months, of course, to actually come to tangible, useful conclusion in this sense.
Actually, we will have some reasonable conclusions at the end, but it's all in development right now. We have the situations that the public procurement data space is still under construction. in several respects, and therefore data are changing, the data formats are changing, the administrative forms are changing, and some initiatives try to improve such the PPDS, the public procurement data space, for instance, or the e-forms for data registering. What we do in the project is actually that we try to improve the data application with respect to real government issues, such as improvement of trust and a smooth work at a bureaucratic office everywhere in Europe. And I think we achieved a bit on this aim, and we can take a step forward in the right direction in that sense.
That's very clear, Peter, and very inspiring as well, I have to say. I'd like now to take a bit of a turn before leaving the floor to your colleague Sonke. Since for the very first time in this series, we have I'm very happy today because we have finally a real representative working on one of our pilot, namely the Italian pilot. That's Paolo. So I would like, since probably our community is a bit less aware of how the overall pilot work is based on. So first of all, I would like to ask you which are the key topics and results that you expect to get from the project, and then if Paolo, you could kindly step a bit on the local setting since you told me several times that in Friuli, Venezia, Giulia region, there is a consolidated tradition of cooperation among region, municipalities, and other public authority, if this also affect ICT tools and data management. But I leave the floor completely to you, Paolo, of course.
Thank you very much, Francesco. It's very interesting because Peter just was speaking about data, and the other components are tools to manage data. And in our region, since 2011, a regional law created the regional integrated information system, bringing together all the regional ICT system, the health sector, municipalities, and all other public authorities are regulated by this law to create a common environment where administrative issues and to manage common geographical database with the same data formats, and they are setting all on the same format by law, because the region get this role for all the local public authorities. And that means that also training platforms and authorization procedure, meaning for instance one-stop shops for authorization procedures, are managed on the same ICT system. And this is, from my point of view, the first pillar on which our ecosystem is built. And recently, we also innovated this law by involving cybersecurity role for the region, for to be the security operations center, the CIRT incident response team for the whole regional environment. And this happened also for the public procurement platform. And we have 5 years of public tenders managed by the public procurement platform, managed by the region. And in this platform, we have all public tenders of municipalities, of hospitals, or other local authority. We have a lot of data on the preliminary phase, from the design of the tender to the awarding of the contract. Now we are working on the execution phase, and it is also relevant when you award the contract and signs the execution and the test certification. And in this very huge platform that the region is managing, thanks to INSEAL, which is another partner of the project, and INSEAL is an in-house company of the region. And we expect to identify anomalies. That may be timing, the bid can get out very soon or in the last 4 hours, or about the values, why the winning bid is so close to others, to the best one, or how many bids you get, or why only one. And this is what we expect from the project, to use the best at best our data, to get from other partners the integration of other sources like social and videos and audio analysis. And this is the really added value, because in the public authority we are less and less, and it's difficult to get new employees. And what this is the real added value of the project. You focus your work on real yellow or orange and red flags of the tenders, and go deeper and analyze the data, and probably you will find that there are no problems, because the bid came out very soon, because it was the second edition, by instance. So this is the focal point. Not nobody will be excluded automatically. Our idea is of a human-centric AI, a human-centric approach to raise flags, and to spend at best the time of public employees to identify real anomalies and do their own job. This is my expectation, and I'm really confident that we do it in our project.
Yeah, that's great, Paolo. I have a simple curiosity for you that might be interesting for our listeners as well. It's pretty much the same, different topic, but it's pretty much the same of what I already asked to Peter about talking about the final version of the tool. They are in development right now. What about the replicability? I mean, do you think that well, specifically talking about the Italian pilot, but this can be also for the other 2 pilots. This is something that we can let's say leave as a sort of legacy of the CEDAR project for I don't know, either a continuation of the CEDAR version 2 or whatever, or in the commission hands, or for other public administration.
Yeah, for sure, because there is a state law that is on public tenders, and the parameters we are investigating are just few of them. And probably there is another work that can be done on other complex parameters that can identify further anomalies. So for sure there is something more to do, but everything we are doing is not wasted, because it is just a part of what we can examine and analyze to get the real to identify the real anomalies in public tenders.
Very clear, Paolo. Thank you very much. So let's move forward. I'd like to bring to the table of discussion the other guests as well, unless whenever you want, just jump in. Don't be shy, of course. And I'd like now to since Paolo raised the public procurement subject, I'd like now to tackle with Sonke the more technological side of this aspect. So artificial intelligence and public procurement. Sonke, they are the pillars of the activities you are carrying out in your own in your work, daily work, I'll say, but and in CEDAR more specifically. So why public procurement, and why is this such an important issue right now? Which are the main drawbacks, the main pitfalls when artificial intelligence enters in the public offices overall, and which is the pathway you see forward from now on? Let's say there are complicated questions, but let's explore them together. The floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. That's a lot of questions. Let me just start. Why public procurement? I think public procurement is really a topic you don't see much in the mainstream if you aren't interested in it, unless something really goes wrong. So if you have a massive scandal, or it is totally invisible. But if you look around you, public procurement is everywhere in daily life. So roads, school buildings, hospital supplies, all is connected to public procurement. So it is very interesting to look at that because it's a huge part of how the state spends the public money and how public money gets transferred into the private space. And that's why public procurement is interesting, but why now? Because I think we all have noticed the crisis over the last years, and the government is already countering the crisis by spending more and more money, making funds available. And this huge influx of funding, that is simply something our procurement system wasn't prepared for. And now there are so many procurements concurrently, that's hard to deal with. So we have the issue that the procurement offices are lagging behind, but are also under time pressure, which leads often to less oversight. And that might imply that something improper might happen during the procurements. It doesn't have to, but there is less oversight. Just because staff is stretched thin across these procurements. So the risk changes. We get probably more opportunities for waste, weak controls, favoritism, maybe even corruption. So that's really the point why it's important to look at public procurement now, because now is the point in time where it all comes to a crossroads and we need to act now if we want to fix it. As to the pitfalls of AI, and Paolo already mentioned some of the systems we developing here in CEDAR. When I say AI, I don't mean chatbots like it's meant in the mainstream, but more like Paolo has said, analytical systems, algorithms, looking at anomalies, outliers in the data. Because the first pitfall I see is opacity. That meaning the AI tool acting as a black box. So if you imagine a procurement officer sitting in front of the computer, just getting the tender evaluation from the system and just clicking yes or no, depending on the recommendation of the system, without actually seeing the data. That's a problem. Nobody can trace why the decision was made. And traceability is really important because the decisions of these officers have to be defendable. For example, a company was submitted an offer, the offer was declined, and is now not very happy about it and asks why. It just doesn't do to say, yeah, the system said so. You have to explain, this is the crucial data point that pivoted against you. Another problem with such models is bias. We are all humans, and humans have created the data, most of it anyway. Humans have structured the data. As Peter said, the data has to be structured, but the structure was proposed and implemented by humans. Humans are flawed and biased, and so are the systems. So are the tools. We told the tools what to look for, so of course they're biased. And that's okay. We just need to be aware of it and counter the decisions where it matters. And third pitfall is responsibility, and that's the really main point. The machine cannot be responsible. These AI systems are very helpful. They can look through unsurmountable amounts of data, You can give them 10,000 PDFs to look through. They can report back. Everything's perfectly fine. But you shouldn't let the system tell you how to decide. Because another thing Paolo already mentioned, context. We need a human in the loop for the context. The output of the AI system should not be the final word, because Paolo said, okay, here's an offer submitted very early in the procurement process. That gets flagged by the AI, rightfully so. But it doesn't have the context that it's a second edition, that the offers were already prepared and it's a second submission. The AI doesn't know that and would probably reject that offer. So the short version is, let AI do the grunt work, the sifting, looking at the data and reporting back, but not the deciding. And looking forward, why is governance and regulation really important and should be part of the technological story? That's really an interesting point, because Paolo touched on it already. We need to regulate access to data. Without having access to data, the tools can't do anything. But we can't give just anyone access to all data. So access must be tailored to personal roles people have in the organization. The tools have to have limited access to data. And that needs to be regulated. And that needs to be already in the discussion during the implementation, and hopefully even before that, of the tools. So, but just regulating the data is not enough. Peter already touched on it, interoperability. If we have data in different formats scattered all over, it is of no use. These tools need to have data in similar formats, preferably on one side they can access. And lastly, human oversight has to be real, not symbolic. That has to be absolutely clear, and also in the regulation. There has to always be a human in the loop. And that's what we set out to do with CEDAR, and I think we are on a good way to doing that.
Great, thank you very much, Sonke. First of all, I've been very attracted and impressed by your metaphor of public procurement, and since you said that it's been very truthful when you say that everything seems to be okay until as long as you don't hear anything about public procurement on the surface and on the news and on the mainstream. So that's pretty accurate. But I wanted also to possibly to leave the floor to the other speakers, because I think you have something maybe to complement, since you referenced to each other several times. So I'll leave it open to you.
I can just repeat what Sonke said. It's really true. My experience with the project is that human oversight is, and as Paolo said as well, must be real, not only symbolic. And the key point is that we get a better governed AI, not a better AI in general. And if that works, I think, and we make some steps toward that direction, the CEDAR project would be a great success.
No, thank you, Peter. Just to add to what Sonke said about explainability, it's really a big issue, because as a public administration, you have to be very transparent, to be very clear to SMEs, to companies, and explain why you are investigating something and getting some more information, This happens also according to the state law. You get a very low price, and there is an anomaly. This is regulated by the state law, and is up to the public employee, to the main responsible of the procedure, to justify or to reject the offer. It's a very low offer, maybe something very strange. And this is very important, that any tool we can use has to be clear how it was analyzed, on which information, which is the real anomalies that have been detected. And this is I think that there is no room for black boxes in public administration. We have also to stick on this point.
That's great. Thank you all for this a very valid takeaway and contributions. So I'm now at this point of this episode going to slowly transition into a bit of a different area that is, by the way, a bit more. I'm a bit more familiar with myself as well. We dedicated the first part on a more policy-driven and technologically focused core objectives of the project. I would like now to tackle a bit another aspect that we haven't done so far, and I think it's about time in this last year of the project, since we, when I say we, I mean me and our colleague from DBC, that we work hand in hand in the work package dedicated to the exploitation, communication, and dissemination of the project. We managed to create quite a thriving community around the project. So I think it's both about time and a good opportunity to talk about the exploitation strategy and the overall impact of the CEDAR initiative, and how we managed this part so far. So in this regard, I'm going to bring in the discussion my colleague Panayiota, since she's in charge of this aspect. I would like to ask you, first of all, why overall the exploitation, but also the intellectual property rights part of the project are such a critical component of not only of CEDAR, but of the Horizon research project on the whole, and of course, which is your role, and how are you moving forward with the task. So I'll leave it up to you, Panayiota, to give a start to the discussion.
Thank you, Francesco. So exploitation is a critical component in any European project, and also for a project like CEDAR. It ensures that the project results don't remain theoretical, but are translated into real-world value. In CEDAR, we are developing data-driven tools to combat corruption and improve public governance. Without a strong exploitation strategy, these innovations would not reach public administrations, public policy makers, or industry stakeholders, where they can make a tangible impact. DBC in this project acts as a facilitator and strategist. We help partners to identify exploitable results, to define target markets, and also to align innovations with users' needs. We also ensure that exploitation planning is continuous, so that impact is maximized from early stages. In CEDAR, we follow a clear step-by-step exploitation methodology. We started by mapping all project outputs, then identified which ones have real potential for use beyond the project, and these are the exploitable results. From there, we prioritized the most promising ones, developed suitable business models, and turned them into concrete business cases with clear paths to adoption. What makes the approach strong is that it's supported by market analysis, IPR planning, and risk assessments. So it's not just theoretical, but focused on real impact. And importantly, exploitation for us also includes standardization and policy uptake, not just commercialization. And how does CEDAR ensure this long-term sustainability of its results? From our perspective at DBC, sustainability is built through early engagement with stakeholders, alignment with European data spaces, and also the creation of exploitable assets like data sets, APIs, and analytics tools. We also support partners in defining business models and strategies so that results continue evolving after the project ends. Regarding the IPRs, the intellectual property rights and data governance in CEDAR, for this, we have to see that why IPR is significant in a data-driven project like CEDAR. We see that CEDAR deals with sensitive, high-value data and advanced analytics. IPR ensures that innovations are protected while still enabling collaboration among partners. It creates trust within the consortium and also provides clarity on how results can be used, shared, and commercialized. And how our ownership and access rights managed among partners. What we have seen in CEDAR is that ownership follows the principle that results belong to the partner who generates them. However, access rights are granted to other partners when needed for implementation or exploitation cases. And this balance encourages collaboration while protecting each partner's contribution. How we balance openness, let's say data sharing with protection of results. This is a key challenge. A key way is to promote openness where it creates value, but we also define clear boundaries for sensitive data and one's own technologies. The goal is an open as possible, as closed as necessary. This is our motto. What are the main IPR challenges we saw in a consortium like CEDAR? From our perspective, the main challenges include aligning different organizational interests, managing background knowledge, and ensuring clarity on joint results. And with many partners from research, industry, and public sector, to establish a transparent rules early on is essential to avoid conflicts later. Thank you.
Very nice, Panayiota. It's been a very, very helpful reminding tutorial for me as well. I'm not in charge, by the way, as you are, very brilliantly of this task in this project, but it's been a very, very nice walkthrough. I've also to say that I forgot in the introduction of your topic to mention, but you did it, the vital importance of the stakeholder engagement phase as well. And we did it quite successfully. We are all happy of what we are doing here in CEDAR together, since we have as you said, quite a very well-established relationship, both with the overall data spaces ecosystem in Europe. And we manage also to set up this, we call it internally data cluster, a data joint cluster with the other twin project funded under our very same call. So we have we get along pretty well with them, and this is part of our overall communication, dissemination, but also exploitation strategy as well. So thank you very, very much, Panayiota. No, I wanted to add yes, Paolo, please.
Well, Francesco, just to add a remark on what Panayiota says, it is very important that data protection and any tools that and analysis of data, that how to protect the data that are managed by by the partner has to be designed since for the earliest stage of the project, not studying how to do it later, but since at the very beginning, we think it's an added value of CEDAR. We started on data protection issues. We started how to anonymize the data, how to manage them, and we agree on the rules to how to do this. So this is, I think, is to be enhanced because it is an added value and a suggestion for future project we can do.
That's extremely wise and important for you to be highlighted. No, I just wanted to, on top of the exploitation phase and of what Panayiota said, I just wanted to have just a bunch of minutes since we opened this discussion on the overall exploitation and impact of CEDAR, of course, but our Horizon Europe research project. I wanted to spend just a few words for the benefit of the listener on the other two important pillars that complete the whole package of every project outreach strategy. I'm talking of the so-called, and you will know, of course, for sure, of the communication and dissemination. Nowadays, I mean, in the context of the Horizon Europe program, a research project on the whole, communication and dissemination are two distinct matters, but they are both mandatory activities designed to, say, to ensure that the European funded research creates the maximum impact on the outside. So while they often overlap, the European Commission evaluates them based on their specific target audiences and objectives. So I think to present very shortly both of them, we can rely on two nice and funny metaphors that I often use to the newcomers. So the communication is a bit like shouting from the top of a roof. So like communication is about public outreach. It is supposed to answer the question, why should I care, first of all, for the general public, for the general citizen, or for the ones that for the very first time approach that precise research domain and discipline. And the usual tool that we use to within CEDAR, but most of the time all the projects used to bring forward the communication or social media, the press releases, the website, of course, videos, newsletter, something that I'm sure you're very familiar through when flipping through your LinkedIn pages. While the dissemination, it's more about scattering the seeds in a field. It focuses more on knowledge transferring to those who can grow the research even farther from that point onward. So the tools to pursue this strategy are more, let's say, at an higher level. So we talk more about academic and peer-reviewed journalism, specialized conferences, policy briefs as well, technical databases. By the way, some of these, you might have recognized that some of these tools, some of these outputs is something that we have already performed within the CEDAR bubble as well. So if we want to quickly wrap this up, communication is about making our project, our activities and result more visible. The communication at the same time, it's also a requirement of the grant agreement, as we said a few seconds ago. And the Commission provided and still provides, I have to say, all over the years, a wealth of different tools, manuals, guidelines, training material to give a boost and to help you to refine, fine-tune, and improve your project communication and dissemination plan. I just mentioned top of my head the guide on communication and dissemination and exploitation that I think it's yearly renewed and adjourned to better understand the differences between these three concepts, including exploitation, of course, and to get acquainted with the different European Commission tools that can support your project. Concerning this, it will be my pleasure to leave some of this helpful material and some of these links of the European Commission tools in the podcast description after the release of this episode, just to name a few ones. The Horizon Magazine platform, the Horizon Result Busters, the Cordis platform, the Open Research platform. They are all of these tools follow a very similar, let's say, rationale and goal. They are public, they're free of charge and fully accessible, and they host and promote research results, and they are supposed to widen the exploitation opportunities for each project. And of course, they are also quite visible like showcase page to upload your own result as well. So I'm actually moving toward the conclusive part of this very interesting episode. Unless you have something else to add, I think it's time to wrap up now. As usual, time did really fly, but I really hope that this engaging conversation has been truly helpful for you and might provide you with some ideas and food for thoughts as well, other than with actionable tools and materials to make use of. So it's time to say goodbye for the time being, but we will soon come with another episode after a short break, with many news, since we are now really approaching the very last phase of the project. I'd like to remember that we are going to be handing by the end of 2026 in December. And in this regard, I do invite you to keep up and follow our social media to stay abreast of any new coming episode of the podcast series, but also with other news and happenings. We will most certainly have a final joint event with our twin project that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, working in the data spaces domain by the end of the year. So we will make sure to keep you posted on this. And most of all, I want to thank my fabulous guests and colleagues for today. Thank you again to all of you. It was a pleasure to have you here, and thank you guys, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next time, and have a nice day, evening, whenever you're listening this episode. Thanks again, really.
Our pleasure too. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
CEDAR Podcast.